بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم. السلام عليكم and welcome to Fiqh al-Muamalat online course. And today subject is a continuation of the discussions that we have started regarding the prohibitions of Sharia in Islamic finance. And we have covered few items and today we shall focus on the Gharar. Gharar is one of the prohibitions, as you know, in addition to riba, which is interest, and maisir or qimar or gambling, and prohibited products and services. There is what's so called and what is known in the Sharia literatures as the Gharar or uncertainty. And the term uncertainty, especially in the screening in the stock market, when we talk about the equity screening, so the uncertainty or the Gharar refer mainly to the conventional insurance, because the business of the conventional insurance is based on Gharar. So when the criteria of Gharar or uncertainty in the screening basically will remove the insurance business company from the Sharia compliance stock. And as you know, in the Sharia screening stock, when it comes to the prohibitions, there are four main drivers, there are four main prohibitions in the screening, in the equity, in the stock market, which are riba, which we have covered, and also gambling and qimar, and gharar, which is the today's topic, and the prohibition or the prohibited product and services. So that's the main four criteria. So today is one of them. So it is one of the major as well prohibitions which may impact the validity and the compliance of the Sharia contract. And in this Gharar, we try to refer to IOF Sharia standard number 3031, which basically refer to the Gharar. We may not read the entire standards, but we just cross some points and pick up some relevant what's so-called criteria in the descriptions of the Gharar. We will be guided by that in our discussions. But let's start saying, but Gharar basically is a kind of uncertainty. Gharar, it means a kind of ignorance, lack of informations that enable you to make sound decisions or to express your consent. So you don't know what's the consequences of this, you don't know what's the currency of the price, you may not know what's the specification of the subject matter, you may not know whether what you have purchased you will get it or not, so you are not sure about the delivery, you don't know whether the asset does exist or not, and so on and so forth. So it's a kind of uncertainty, is a kind of lack of information and knowledge that puts the Sharia contract not really sure whether it will be materialized or otherwise, and this one may also lead to some kind of dispute between the two contracting parties. That's why Sharia try to ground its business transactions on some clear informations about on a kind of transparency, about clear informations, no hidden costs, no hidden informations, no cheating, full disclosure, full transparency. Then everyone can make decision, and everyone is really sure what's the expected, it is expected from the contract, what he's buying, what he's selling, what kind of asset he's buying, how much. What's the mode of payments, what the kind of currency, what's the specification of the product I'm buying, when I'm going to get this the product, what kind of delivery will be, is it air, it is by sea, it is by land transportation, is it on spot, it is delivered, it is the payment through installment, and so on and so forth. So a lot of information basically that may surround the business transactions. Clear information and transparency will put the Sharia contract in very good positions, reduce the informations, lack of the information, increase the uncertainty, increase the gharar, may impact the Sharia contract. So let's start looking at the definitions of the contract. And we may start guided by the some points highlighted by the IOF Sharia Standard 31, when it says that Gharar is a status of uncertainty that exists when the process of concluding transactions involve unknown aspect, as I mentioned. So you engage in a contract, you start processing the contract, but during that course, you may find something which is normally mostly related to the subject matter, basically has a kind of lack of information, or the information are not sufficient related to one of the aspects. It doesn't mean the uncertainty is surrounding the entire what's so-called subject matter, but part of it could be related to the price. You don't know the currency, it could be related to the product, you don't know what kind of product you are buying, or the specification is not sufficient. So that's kind of what's so-called unknown informations pertaining to the products or the subject matter. Then it says, in other words, Gharar refer to the status of a result that may or may not materialize. So you don't know exactly whether this contract will take place successfully or otherwise. So the informations that does exist either in the price or in the subject matter, which is the goods, it doesn't give any clear indications whether the entire contract will be materialized and the price will be delivered to the seller, and whether the commodity will be delivered to the a buyer. And this kind of uncertainty is due to the lack of some of the information. So that's the meaning of Gharar. It's a kind of uncertainty that may be in the price or the goods during concluding the contract, which may create a degree of uncertainty whether the contract will be materialized or otherwise. And the Gharar basically is divided into three major classifications. The first one is basically major Gharar, or the excessive Gharar, meaning the degree of Gharar is very high, meaning that the degree of uncertainty is very high, meaning the lack of information related to the price or the goods is very high. And the other type is basically medium Gharar, meaning the degree of uncertainty and lack of information is a moderate, is a medium, is not too high, but still there are some kind of lack of information. And the other one is very minor. The very minor, the Sharia scholars, as we are going to see, did not pay much attention to it because it may not have a significant impact on the contract. Whereby the minor Gharar normally does exist in every single transactions in overall. In overall, it does exist in most of the financial transactions, because it's a very difficult within this kind of complex environments, very complex market, a very diverse market, very complex transactions locally, internationally, various types of commodities. Sometimes it is liquid, sometimes it is a hard, what's so-called subject, and sometimes it is electronics, sometimes it is car manufacturing, machine, sophisticated machine, small items, big items. Food processing is a very complex, what's so-called business and trade environments that may leave some rooms for uncertainty, but that uncertainty is tolerated and accepted, and it is very difficult to obtain zero Gharar in the financial transactions. That's why Sharia allowed minor Gharar. Minor Gharar is tolerated, it is accepted, And of course, we'll give some example later on that. And the excessive gharar, which is very high, lot of missing informations, lack of the descriptions of the subject matter. For example, you are buying a mobile, you don't know what kind of brand. And if you know the brand, you don't know what type of this brand. If it's a mobile, for example, and if it is Samsung, what kind of series in the Samsung, and if you get the series, so what kind of specification you have, what kind of the color, what kind of the speed and informations that has this mobile has a camera or not, what's the quality of the camera, and so on and so forth. So it may lead to some kind of excessive gharar that may impact the price, which basically also reflect to the consent, which may lead to dispute. So excessive gharar is not tolerated in Sharia and may contribute to the what's so-called validity of the Sharia contract, and what's so-called minor gharar, which is tolerated and it is very small, and normally it is ignored and you don't pay attention to it. If it is found, it doesn't have a significant impact on the, for example, sales transactions or the trade transactions. But the minor gharar it is where possible debate could took place, because the medium gharar could be somehow very close to the high excessive. It may impact it, and it could be a bit lesser, closer to the minor gharar, then it will not impact it. Here basically it goes back to the trend of the market, to the practice of the market, to the understanding of the market, to the view of the expert, and so on. So it's difficult to have a say on it, but it goes back to the urf, to the practice will determine whether this is could be tolerated and accepted gharar, or it could significantly impact the business transaction. This is the classifications of gharar, and of course the ruling of the gharar in Sharia is the prohibitions, meaning it is not allowed to have a kind of uncertainty in the business transactions, because from Sharia standpoint, disclosure for disclosures and transparency, honesty, and full informations provided is one of the requirements in order to express your consent and your rida and your offer and acceptance and make decisions, and also to avoid any possibility of dispute among the contracting party. We'll stop here and we carry on the discussions of the gharar in the coming sessions. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.